Hey y'all, hi. Okay, so today I'm just going to be hanging out with you, trying some makeup, but it's a particular group of makeup. So brands occasionally send me stuff to review on YouTube. Pretty frequently, something will come in the mail and I'll look at it and I'll go, huh, for some reason. Sometimes it's like, huh, curious that I have this piece of makeup for some reason. And sometimes it's like, huh, this is weird for some reason. And what I've been doing over the past couple of months is every time something comes in and it makes me go, huh, I put it into a box. I've been keeping a box of weird and interesting makeup. And there's enough here for me to pretty much do a full face. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. If this is your first time to my channel, then welcome. I'm really glad you clicked on this one. I'm Hannah. This is the kind of thing that I like to do, but I try to stay grounded on my channel, remembering that overspending can be an issue for beauty lovers. It used to be a huge issue for me. So I try to make content that celebrates the love of beauty while also keeping in mind that on a practical level, most beauty lovers out there are really only buying a handful of things. And if that sounds good to you, I hope you'll subscribe. Now, let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. I'm coming to you barefaced with just a little bit of brow business going on. I didn't have any weird or interesting brow stuff, so I went ahead and did my brows. I just used the Refi Brow Gel to hold them in place, and then a teeny tiny bit of this e.l.f. stuff. It's like a pomade. I can't remember the exact name of this product, but I'll link it below and I'll link everything below. I used a little angled brush to just fill in a couple of patchy spots in my brows, but I didn't really go big with the brows today. They're not the main event. I am just gonna use my regular concealers for base, but I do have two weird and interesting things that go underneath makeup. So that's why I didn't put anything on my face before I started filming today. One of them is from City Beauty. They sent me a box of PR recently and it has been really interesting to start using it because all of the City Beauty products seem to be designed to like supercharge some aspect of you. And they're also really intense about like the science side of makeup and skincare. So they have stuff like a crepe erase body balm. They also sent me an eye cream for the eyelids that's supposed to be like a lifting eye treatment, you know, so there's a lot of like dramatically erase the signs of aging stuff in their line, which I'm not really that into. It's like okay to age. I'm a little bit more on the side of let's normalize the way that makeup looks on aging skin. However, it's not keeping me from investigating the City Beauty products. What did I do? I think both of these I've tried on my face one time, but my skin's been so dry lately that I've been putting on a lot of skincare, including some oils these days, a lot of like moisturizing layers in the mornings. And so both of these products pilled the first time that I tried them. Today, I have only a watery essence on my face. So there's nothing on my face right now that should cause whichever one of these two I decide to use to pill. Hopefully. We'll find out whether they've been pilling or whichever one I use, whether it's been pilling because it's a pilly product or whether it's been pilling because I've been layering it on top of too much stuff. So this is the City Beauty Skin Perfecting Daily Veil. It's a mineral sunscreen and it's also supposed to be kind of like a primer that evens the skin tone. And this is what the tube looks like. It's like a pink paste. I'm already having a hard time believing that this wouldn't leave a white cast on deeper skin. Well, it actually blended away to something that's definitely brightening. It's on this hand, not this hand. But that sort of pinky brightening makes me think that it could be a product that would leave a white cast on some skin tones. Everything else about it, however, looks pretty promising. On my other hand, I'm going to put this and then I'll decide which one of the two I want to put on my face today. So this is a product that does similar things. It's from the Organic Pharmacy and this was sent to me by Skin Store. I think that they're having a sale again and I love it. Every once in a while, Skin Store has a sale and I love it because they email me and they're like, do you want to try a couple fancy skincare items? And I'm always like, yes, I do. So that's what's happening right now. They're having a sale. They sent me a couple of things in the hopes that the things would make it onto my channel and that I would talk about the sale, which is what I'm doing right now. This is one of the products they sent me, and I was kind of the most excited about it because it says that it brightens and repairs. You're supposed to put it on your face as a last skincare step, and it enhances the work of your SPF because it has some SPF in it, although it's not like something that would work alone as an SPF. And it's supposed to be, I don't know, the reviews were amazing. It's all like this amazing, brightening, moisturizing, perfecting, expensive thing. Like I think it's like very expensive. So I got it and I started playing with it and it's so not what I expected. I thought it was going to be sort of serum-y and it's like really goopy and the dropper doesn't work at all. I don't know if it's broken, literally at all. It's like no matter what I do, I can't get the dropper to pick up any product and squeeze it out. Right away, that's annoying. If I had spent however much this costs and then I couldn't get the dropper to work, I would be I would be annoyed. So I'm taking the dropper out and putting some on the back of my hand. It's weird. It's sort of dissolving to like a watery. I thought that it was going to retain some like creaminess because it's so stiff in the bottle, but it's definitely melting into kind of like a watery serum, and it's definitely becoming one with my skin more than the other product. So the Organic Pharmacy one has clearly left a slightly like plump looking, dewy looking finish, and the other one is like a mattifying, pore filling finish. I'm more about a plump, dewy finish, so I'm going to tentatively try the Organic Pharmacy one on my face. Again, I tried this before and it pilled horribly and I had to wash my face, but that happened with both of these. I'm just like wiping it from the dropper onto my hand. Not ideal. Okay, it's definitely not pilling so far, but it's funny, I can feel it starting to set. And so I wonder if what happened before was that it started to set and I continue to rub at it and that's when it pilled. So maybe I'll like leave it for a second, but I hate it when things are fussy in that way. Although it doesn't feel like it's gonna pill, even if I keep rubbing at it while it's setting. It must have pilled before because of what was underneath it. And it is leaving a beautiful finish on the skin. You can see that. It definitely has some illuminating particles in it. It also feels very skin protecting. Like it feels like a bulletproof layer that's going to keep my makeup from actually touching my skin, and it's also going to keep the moisture of my skin locked in. It really does feel like that, and it feels very grippy, the kind of primer that some people really like. Like it feels like it's going to hang on to whatever I put on top of it. It has potential. I will keep experimenting with it, and of course I'll come back at some point and talk to you about the City Beauty product as well. I just didn't want to put both of them on because they do the same thing. Yeah, my skin feels very like just applied my skincare and it's bursting with dewy, glowy, plump health. The product that Skin Store sent me that I've really fallen in love with instantly is this one, the Ren Ever Calm Overnight Recovery Balm. I'm just talking about it because I had mentioned Skin Store in passing, and I don't know, this product is kind of weird, so I didn't want to completely besmirch them because they also sent a product that is really great. Perhaps it also earns its position in this video because it is a little bit weird and interesting in that it looks and feels kind of like a greasy balm, kind of like a giant tub of lip balm or something like that, like translucent and sort of melty. Then when you touch it, it really melts on your fingers and it kind of becomes sort of an oil consistency, and it feels sort of like putting a thick facial oil on, even sort of thinner and softer than that in a way. But in the ingredients, there's nothing in it like coconut oil. There's nothing oily in it. It just has that consistency, which helps it stay present on the skin overnight and really locks in moisture. But it's for sensitive skin and there's nothing about it that is pore clogging. And I really like that. I like when a product feels really rich and thick and really stays on top of my skin and locks in my skincare and locks in my moisture, but it's not prone to causing like whiteheads or blackheads or causing clogged pores of any kind. And I really enjoy the feeling of putting it on. So I've been using this as a night cream. Okay, my skin still feels tacky. It's going to be interesting to see how my concealers apply on top of this product. I'm just going to mix my Rose Inc concealer with my Makeup Forever concealer. The Makeup Forever one is much thinner, more watery. The Rose Inc one is really, really thick, pigmented, and very dewy. The Makeup Forever is also lighter, brighter, and more yellow, and the Rose Inc is very close to like the neutral of my skin tone. But there's a big difference today between the redness of my face and the white yellowness of my neck. So I'm hoping that the combo of these will be just what I need. I just remembered that I forgot something that I was going to use, and actually it's not too late. I have a sponge that Kaja sent to me. I'm gonna move quickly so that this concealer doesn't dry. I haven't used a beauty sponge in years. Years ago, I used to use them all the time like everyone does. Years ago, I decided that it was too much trouble for me to always be like wetting my sponge. And so I switched to using brushes exclusively. And Kaja sent me this cute squashy sponge and I decided to put it in this video and try using a sponge for the first time in years. So I'm gonna go wet it and then I'll keep going, blending this in, and then I'll let you know how it is, how I'm faring with it. Okay, I wet the sponge. It got much bigger and it's decently soft. Yeah, I remember why people like this. It's like really making the product one with my skin. Okay. It's not weird to use a beauty sponge, but it is interesting for me to be doing it after all this time. It's taking longer than a brush takes, and it's using more product than a brush uses, but it's undeniably, the finish is undeniably great. And I actually feel like the Organic Pharmacy, whatever it is, Radiant Day Shield is taking the makeup really well. But I actually need more, which never happens to me with that Rose Ink concealer because it's so pigmented. It's just, you know, when you use a beauty sponge, it soaks up some of the product. Although I actually think that the coverage that I just had would be good for every day for me. But today I'm kind of going for the coverage that I usually apply when I'm going to be filming, because I might film another video after this, depending on how all of this weird and interesting makeup ends up looking. The other day on one of my videos in which I had mixed the Rose Ink concealer with the Auric Glow Lust, which is like my favorite thing, and I had applied it as a foundation. Somebody commented, "Your base that you mixed looks like the Tin Man." And I was like, I know. Something I've noticed filming or editing my own videos is that I often forget to put makeup on my upper lip. I'll often like put a whole face of base, and my little Cupid's bow will just be like red, while the rest of my face is the same color as my body. Well, I'm feeling like really into beauty sponges right now. I wouldn't be surprised if I like switch over to beauty sponges for the next 2 years. And then 2 years from now, I'll be up here being like, I've been using beauty sponges for a long time. I'm gonna switch back to brushes and see how it goes. I think it looks really good on camera, but it also looks really good in person. And that's not always the case. So far, so good with the weird and the interesting. My nose is running a little bit and I don't wanna wipe it because I don't wanna mess up my base. So I'm just sticking these little bits of paper towel up there to dry it out. Hashtag relatable. Okay, I'm here for this 1000%. What's next? Oh, actually there's something that I meant to apply at the very beginning that I should do now. It's also from City Beauty. It's the City Lips. And I think that this is like their big, super popular, impressive best-selling product that is the thing that people like associate with the name City Beauty. It's a very intensely plumping lip gloss, and I know that it works and it's intensely plumping because I've tried it a couple of times already. It doesn't hurt and it doesn't smell like mint or cinnamon. It's not like stinging the lips to stimulate them, but it really makes, every time I apply it, a couple of minutes later, my lips are suddenly like huge and pink. So there is something going on with like the surface of the skin of the lips with this product, but then a couple of minutes later, they kind of like calm down. They no longer look swollen, or they no longer look like overstimulated because they're not pink anymore, but they are really plump. I think you will be able to see the transformation take place before all of our very eyes, because I'll put it on right now and then I'll continue doing other stuff on my face and then we'll check in. This is the product. It's just the clear City Lips gloss. It definitely feels thick, but it's not sticky. It's a little stiffer than most glosses. And I've learned from experience not to overline with it, which is what I usually do with gloss, because then it'll make my lip line, like the vermilion border, very swollen, and it's a little bit harder to get an even application of other lip products afterwards. So I kind of just put a tender little application on my actual lip skin. ColourPop sent me some PR. It's mostly in this video because the makeup isn't weird, but I feel like it is really interesting to have received ColourPop PR. It was definitely something that when it arrived, I was like, this is gonna be interesting, because I haven't bought makeup from ColourPop in a really long time. There are some things that have tempted me, and in fact, they sent me some of the things that have tempted me, but every time I've been tempted by ColourPop makeup over the last couple of years, I have just gone to my own collection and used what I already have instead. So I'm in a position of having received a couple of pieces of makeup that I wanted, and then I talked myself out of buying them using what I already own. Namely, the It's a Mood palette. This is like a whole thing. It's one of their mega palettes, and when it released, it was like the first mega palette from ColourPop that I had ever wanted. And I filmed a whole video where I built my own palette, sort of duping the vibes of this palette, and I used it instead of buying this palette. And now here it is. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how I get along with it. They also sent the Super Shock Shadow in Ritz, which a bunch of you have recommended that I try. In particular, on my video about wet look eyeshadow, I've gotten a bunch of recommendations to try Ritz. Yeah, these are I actually have a bunch of weird eyeshadow things. I'll at least swatch this today and hopefully I'll apply it. The Mega palette from ColourPop is much smaller than I thought that it was going to be based on the online imagery. What can I compare it to? It's not that much bigger than this Natasha Denona palette. This is like the Lila palette, the size of the gold palette. It's really just a tiny bit taller than that and it's not wider. I was expecting it to be the size of those Morphe 35 pan palettes because it looks the same, but it's sort of like a smaller version. It's like a petite version of that. So here's the palette. It looks as beautiful as it ever did to me and as useful. I feel like one of the appeals of this when it was first released was the fact that it's basically got all of the colors that I could ever want because I love grungy color. And it does that thing where it has sort of like the lighter versions or complementary pale shades of the shades that are darker at the bottom of the palette. It goes kind of like from light to dark, and then there's a rainbow across, and there are some textured shades in it. So yeah, I still think that it's a well-composed and interesting palette, but I won't be able to report back in this video about whether I am glad that I own it. I'll have to use it for a while before I decide that. But actually, before we get into eyes, ColourPop also sent me their new powders. They just released pressed face powder, which you're supposed to be able to use as a foundation or as a setting powder. And I never use this kind of thing, which is what makes it kind of interesting. It definitely looks light enough for me. Yeah, it definitely looks light enough for me. So I'm gonna use it. We'll see what happens. Let's have a little peely moment together. Ready? Love it. All right, I'm gonna use it with the little puff. Usually I would use a brush with this kind of thing, but I'm just doing it. I'm using it with the puff with which it was sent to me. Oh my gosh, I feel like it might totally ruin this beautiful base. Well, it's matte. That's hella matte. That mattified my chin. I don't want to get too much of it under my eye. I don't want it to get onto my cheeks. So I'm just turning the thing like this. So it's just, it's like a smaller surface area. Okay, I feel like, well, there are a couple of things. One, I'm not the person to review powder except for just as a human. You know what I mean? I feel like when it comes to reviewing something like an eyeshadow formula, I know a lot about eyeshadow formulas because I've tried a lot and have really clear preferences. When it comes to reviewing a powder, I'm just kind of like seeing how it's going as a person who has judgment because I haven't tried very many powders and I don't use a powder all the time. What I will say is that it feels like a serious powder. It's not messing around. It's not like a translucent powder that you can build, blah, blah, blah. It like did the thing, but it also doesn't feel heavy or cakey on my skin. And it doesn't look heavy or cakey either. It just looks incredibly matte to the point almost of a slight dustiness, which I'm sure would change if I sweeping at it with a brush made it a bit less, it was only a little bit dusty, made it a bit less that way at close range, but it's still just incredibly matte. I mean, you can see, right? Rarely do you ever see me looking like this, I feel. It's funny, I feel like matte skin is sort of like fundamentally more flattering. As much as we love dewy skin and the look of it is like sexier and juicier and more exciting, matte skin is inherently blurring, and so it's just going to make you look more perfected, especially at a distance and especially under lighting that's not even. Here I'm under very even light, but when I get into like a harsh light from one direction or sunlight coming from above, the more shine there is on the skin, the more it shows like the cracks and crevices, you know what I mean? There is something very appealing about it, and of course it's going to help my makeup last longer, but I do feel like it's kind of a lot, and it also, when it sort of set into my face, it really revealed that my face is still kind of on the pink side compared to my neck, which is okay. I mean, like, it's maybe more natural looking, and I can bronze up my neck a little bit. Maybe I'll do that. I know that we're just playing here, but this is a little thing that I always like to do. And as always, I'm using that Kevyn Aucoin Neo highlighter, just a little bit though. It's this, just gave me a better match. So I think I will keep using this and see. I think that if it had been immediately very cakey and thick, then I would have known immediately that it's not a good product for me. There was nothing about it immediately that made me be like, they did a bad job formulating this, you know? But because I don't use a lot of powder, that's kind of like the most that I can tell you right now. I do feel different. Like I feel like my face is sort of a pretty different version of what I usually do right now, although it probably doesn't look all that different to you guys. The plumping gloss has done its job, but because there was some concealer mixed in on my lips, they aren't looking as shockingly pink as they usually do like 5 minutes after I apply it. I don't know, or maybe we already went through that phase and I just didn't notice, because it's definitely been like at least 10 minutes since I applied it. What do you guys think? Can you see a difference? I can definitely see a difference, but we'll give it even more time. Let's get into eyes. There are actually a couple of weird things that I have to talk about for eyes. So my friend Becca, whose YouTube channel is Becca Sun. I really recommend watching her channel. She is a delight in every single way. She gave this to me. It's a Milk Makeup Color Chalk. I didn't even know that this released, and I don't know if this is a mini or if this is just what they were. Are they still on the market? I haven't heard anything about this. It says, Color Chalk, glides on smooth for buildable payoff, pure pigment, comes in a portable recyclable tube, so you can take it with you anywhere. And it doesn't say what it's for, so I assume that it's supposed to be like, it can be, use it on your face, use it all over the place, you know? It's just like a little piece of chalk. I don't know if I'm gonna use this today. Oh, it's kind of nice. Oh, it's a very interesting formula. I just want to I want to do art with it, but at the same time, I'm afraid it's going to get everywhere. It has kind of a weird smell. I got it onto my nose while it was smelling. It's classic. For a while, I thought that I was smelling, I can't tell if it's this or not. I think it is this. It has kind of a herbal fragrance that I'm not super mad at, but it definitely took me by surprise. This is very orange. I feel like it would make a nice eyeshadow. I have several other things that I want to try, and I'm not sure that this is it today. But what it feels like is a solid stick of a really pigmented, really shiny eyeshadow. I feel like I would prefer to just have an eyeshadow. Like I don't need it to be a piece of chalk in a tube that smells weird that I can throw in my bag. So it's a bit of a miss for me in terms of the gimmick here, but based on how it's swatching, I bet it performs pretty well on the eyes. Let's use the ColourPop palette, because that is the thing that I'm the most curious about when it comes to eyeshadow. Oh, but there's one other thing that Becca gave me that I wanted to show you. This actually interests me a bit more than the Milk thing. So it's by a brand called EXA, the Light Show Color Melt, and it's in the shade Slumber Party. It's a liquid shadow, but it's very chunky and reflective and flaky. That's how it looks squeezed out. There I spread it around, and already, you know, it has a little bit of that copper vibe, but it's more of like a nudie copper, much more of a color that I can work with than the Melt copper. And I hope you can see the particles. I know the shot might be getting kind of blown out there, but you can see them, right? It's not plastic glitter. They're big chunks of mica. It looks a lot like the Rowan Disco Eye, the finish of it, and like the big flakes of mica that are in it. But I kind of like the tones and undertones of this even better than the Rowan Disco Eye that I have. And it dries down completely. It doesn't stay creamy and it doesn't crease. I've worn this actually already. Before the ColourPop PR came, my plan for this video was to put this on my eyes, and it is really awesome. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's got to be the ColourPop palette. I haven't tried ColourPop eyeshadows in a couple of years. I used to really like them, but I've tried a lot of other things since then. I'm just curious to see how I get along with this palette. So I'm going to prime my lids. It's always such an interesting moment when you wanted a palette, you imagined using it, you knew you would really like it, you had talked through all of the things you would like about it in your mind, and then you finally have it and you open it to use it and you look at it for the first time with the actual intention of literally putting it right onto your face, that's always such an interesting moment, because I feel like in that moment, the palette really reveals itself to you. It like breaks through your fantasy and it reveals its true self to you. That's what I'm always trying to do with my duping the vibes videos. It's been a while since I duped the vibes of this, so I maybe had this aha moment back when I filmed that video, but it's been a while. And looking at it now, it's just like, I'm asking myself like, well, what color do I want? Like, what kind of look do I want? And at first I felt a little overwhelmed because there's so many choices. And then the more I looked at it, the more these warm kind of terracotta mattes started popping out at me. I had the thought that there's much more of like a terracotta bent to this palette than I realized that there was. A lot of it's very peachy, of course, with the exception of this very green side. A lot of it's very peachy. But I think that what I want to do is to use the shades that I remember being really into when this palette first released, which if I remember correctly, it was this one, which is called Wanna Go. I was really into that. Surface is sort of, reminds me of Tea Garden and Baby Lights, some of my old ColourPop favorites. Oblivion reminds me of Team Captain, another old ColourPop favorite, although this looks a little bit more olivey maybe than it. And then I really like this kind of old gold glitter called Ritual. So I'm gonna build a look out of those. So there's the base of the look just using Wanna Go, which is the first shadow that I swatched, the one that's over here. Sorry, my hands are full of stuff. The one that's over here, kind of on the brown side of the palette as opposed to the green side, but I kind of consider it a green. Love the color. So far, I'm finding the shadow to be, I'm surprised by how thin it is. I had forgotten, or maybe this is thinner than like other ColourPop metallics, but I don't think so. I think I've gotten used to using much richer, flakier, creamier, more pigmented metallic eyeshadows. And so the first thing I noticed about it is that it's just the consistency is just a little bit thinner than what I'm used to these days, but the color is incredibly beautiful. It's easy to work with. I think that based on this one eyeshadow, which, you know, I'll come back and give you more information as I go in future videos as I use these eyeshadows more. But based on just this first application of this one shade, I feel like when I first started really getting into collecting makeup and I started getting into ColourPop shadows were my favorites, especially the mattes. They were like the shadows that I always had the best luck with and that I felt like I could control the most easily. And now, years later, having tried a whole bunch of different formulas and learned more about makeup, I feel like they are kind of lightweight. Like what you see is what you get. They're very effective, and especially for the price, they're great shadows, but they're just not the heavy hitters. You know what I mean? They're not the fancy art supplies that I now enjoy. Can't argue with the color though. I'm completely obsessed with this color. It's like my favorite color for eyeshadow, as I've said a number of times recently. But let's add some excitement to its life. Okay, I used Surface, which is the one that I said reminded me of Tea Garden and Baby Lights. I used it as a brow bone highlight, which made the look much more intense because it's not a totally transparent, it doesn't have a totally transparent base. It sort of has like a ruddy, almost like a red flip to the base. So in a sense, it's like brought the depth of eyeshadow all the way up to my brows. But I don't mind that. I feel like it's made it more editorial and I actually like it. And now I'm going to use Oblivion, which is that olivey matte in the outer corner. I also am putting some of this matte underneath the eyes. For this, I remember I was talking about how on skin, matte products are sort of just like inherently more flattering because they're inherently blurring. It's that same principle that has led me to start using matte shadows more on my lower lash line and underneath my eyes, because when I'm really buffing out a shade down below my eyes like I did today, I mean, I'm really coming down quite far with it. Even though I love the look of metallic shadows under the eyes, they definitely tend to gather in the creases under my eyes more and enhance them, and matte shadows are more likely to blur them. So I feel like that has retained an extremely monochromatic look. You can't even really tell that I used a matte shadow. It just kind of grounded it, made it a little more structured, and allowed me to perfect the shape a little bit. I love the way that this looks. I love the way this looks. And after working with the first shadow, when I was really focusing on it, I didn't give the formulas a second thought. I still find these ColourPop shades really easy to work with, and I find that they pretty much do everything that I want them to do. So I'll follow its future career in my life with great interest. I'm not going to use the glitter because I forgot about Ritz. I want to use it. I don't own any Super Shock shadows anymore. This is the first one I've had in a while. I didn't buy myself any after my no-buy year, but I got sent a couple as gifts, not from ColourPop, but from friends. And I used them for a little while and then I ended up decluttering them. So this is the first one I've had in a long time and I can totally see why you guys have been recommending it to me. It's really pretty. Yeah, it looks a lot like that Urban Decay shadow that I'm always talking about, Space Cowboy, but it doesn't have as strong of a color in the base. It's a little bit more sheer than Space Cowboy. So I don't want to change this look too much because I really love it, but I do appreciate how this might make it look wet in the center of my lids. I feel like this would look better on bare skin. It's not really enjoying being layered on top of the other powder shadow. Maybe I should use a brush with it. I just cleaned my brushes last night, so I've been like reaching for a clean brush for every shadow and really enjoying it. I'm feeling quite smug. Yeah, this doesn't layered over the powder shadow in a very satisfactory way. With the brush, it just sort of dispersed those glimmery particles over my lids. At close range, it just looks like the eye look that it was before, but with some silver specks all over it. Maybe at a distance it has made it look glossier, but I don't think that it's made it look glossy like this. I think that I was asking too much of it to try to get it to do this on top of another eyeshadow. But it hasn't ruined the look. It's actually probably made it a little bit more grungy and made it feel a little bit more organic and layered. And I don't love the impression as much as I loved it before I added that Super Shock, but I still love it overall. So I'm going to put a little liner on. I'm going to use this Beauty Bay liner that I forgot to put on in the Beauty Bay try-on haul video. It is the Beauty Bay brand and it's called Antique, and it's very similar to the colors that I have on my lids right now. Yeah, I'd say it's a color dupe for the Victoria Beckham eyeliner in bronze, the one that I am obsessed with. The Eye Kajal from VB Beauty. It's a color dupe for that, but it's definitely not a texture dupe because it's just drier. It doesn't have that incredibly creamy texture. However, part of what I love about that Victoria Beckham liner is the color. So if you can't spring for it, but you want something that color, this could be an option for you. When I was cleaning my brushes last night, I decided to try using this acrylic container from Refer in a new way. It's like divided. Can you see that? It's like divided. It's got two chambers. So I put all of my clean eye brushes in one side and then I put like the dirty eye brush on the other side. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do with it, but I didn't really realize that before. I think it's gonna be good. I'm excited for this to be my system. My newest mascara, and I guess it is kind of the weirdest and most interesting, is also from City Beauty. It's supposed to be like both a treatment and a volumizing mascara, and I've been using it actually. I've used it in a couple of videos already. It's great. It's very lengthening. I feel like if I had some sort of weird tubing mascara or like a mascara with glitter in it or something, that's what would be appropriate for this video, but I don't have anything like that, so I'm just gonna use this. As mascaras go, I'd say it's kind of on the dry side, not in a bad way, but in the way that is the preference of some people. You know, like some people prefer mascaras that are a little bit raspier and some people prefer like really wet, gunky ones. This reminds me of nothing so much as the what is it? The IT Cosmetics Superhero Mascara. Very, very buildable. The Superhero Stretch Mascara, which is one of my favorite mascaras in my history of using makeup. So I'm pretty impressed by this, especially for it coming from like a little discreet, like specific brand that I had never heard of before. There's the eye look. Again, I liked it a smidge better before I applied the wash of Ritz, but it's actually kind of growing on me and I'm not mad at it at all, the overall impression. Not much fallout either. Complexion still looking decent. Maybe weird makeup is good makeup. Maybe weird and interesting makeup is how you look fierce. And the lip, let's check in with the lip. I feel like it's visibly plumped. When I first started using this product, I was worried that if I put it on camera, put it on off camera, and then came on camera that people would accuse me of having had lip fillers, which I've never had. I've never had any kind of cosmetic surgery or filler or Botox or anything. People are frequently coming in and being like, you got a nose job or something, when I didn't. I think the camera, we've upgraded the camera a couple times over the years. The lighting has changed over the years, the angle of the camera, and I've gotten much better at lighting my own videos. So I'm sure that I look a little bit different, but I've never gotten any of that kind of thing. I feel like though this particular demonstration of the lip plumper hasn't been as dramatic as it usually is. But you know, they're definitely smooth. They don't look twice as big as they were before, but they're definitely plump. Let's keep going, and then at the end I'll wipe off this gloss and apply something else. So there's like a cheek situation happening here. This is definitely weird and interesting makeup from ZC, which is the brand that makes those insane dragon lipsticks, which they did send me a new one of those. Actually, maybe it's what I'll apply. Actually, this color could be it. It kind of works with the vibe. Maybe this is what I'll apply at the end, because the only other lip product that I have is another thing from ColourPop. It's like a gloss. I have already tried it and I don't like it, and I've already put on a bunch of ColourPop makeup. Just briefly, it's this Luxe Gloss in All Grown Up. I found it to be goopy. I felt like it smelled. What is that? It's like fruity, but also chocolatey. I don't like it. I'm not gonna use this. So yeah, I'll put this on at the end of the video. But ZC also sent me this blush, which is, this is a rare occasion, y'all. I almost never say this. This is something I've never seen in makeup packaging. The blush, which is, I think it's like none of it's in English, so I don't know, but it's a cat, I think it's like a Lucky Cat blush, right? Because the embossing, see if I can show it to you. It's a little cat holding up its paws. And when you open it, it's still, but when you close it, it spins around and around. It spins around and around. I don't know what to tell you. It spins around and around. Are we seeing this? I'm having a hard time showing it to you because when you hold it up, there's a weight in it, so the weight just goes to the bottom. But when you hold it flat, there's something about the physics that it makes it spin around and around for kind of a long time. So especially when you open it, it's like as soon as you open it, it's static and it just stops wherever it ended up, and it's like in a different position every time. It's such a crazy thing to do with a blush. I just don't even know what to tell you. But then when as soon as you close it, even if you aren't waving it around, it starts spinning around. Not mechanically, but like in a way that a toy would, because it's weighted. When I opened this, I was like, cat, spinning cat blush, you're going straight into the box of weird and interesting makeup. I'm saying blush but maybe it's a highlighter. Yeah, I think it may be a highlighter. This ZC makeup, I always feel like I don't want to touch it. I just need to get over it, and because I never want to like disturb it. I just need to be like, this is part of what I do. I'm creating this video for you. It's okay if I make a slight disturbance in the surface of this product. So it's it looks very highlighty, but I also have all of these Kaleidos highlighters, which aren't new except for one. Kaleidos sent me this highlighting box. I get a trickle of PR from brands, but I rarely get like a thing like this, like a PR, what do they call this? Kit? PR packet? There's a word for like this when it's like got its whole own thing. It's so cute. It says the Encyclopedia of Kaleidos Space Age Highlighters. It looks like a book, and then you open it and all the highlighters are in there. So the new one is called Gifted, and my deep desire as part of this video is to put this on a lot, to put a lot of this on. So I had hoped that I could blush with this and then use the Kaleidos ones to highlight. So I'm gonna try to pick up as much of the blushy part as I can. It's been so long since I used a powder blush, it's like I don't even remember how. Oh yeah, this is very highlighting. It's probably a rosy highlighter rather than being like a highlighting blush. We're gonna be shiny today, girls. Yeah, this is a highlighter. It's pretty. Not bad, ZC. Yeah, I feel like what I can say is that if there's something in you that is obsessed with this spinning round and round situation and you saw it and you were like, for reasons that are my own, that don't really have to do with the performance of makeup, I plan to purchase that and own it and have it be mine forevermore. If you were having that experience and then there was just one question in your mind, which is like, but does it look good on your face? Like, how does it look? How does it perform? Then what I can tell you with confidence is that it gives you a very shiny, very wet looking cheek, which is great for it, but not ideal for me in this moment, because what I was planning to do was to put a bunch of Kaleidos highlighter on. And I feel like I still want to do that. Gifted, which is the newish Kaleidos highlight. It's described as a multi-chrome fuchsia highlighter with a breathtaking peach and blue-green shift. Blessed with an ethereal glow, this color-shifting glaze will illuminate your day and light up your universe. So it's supposed to have all of these colors in it, and I have used it a little bit. I'm just gonna pop it on top of this other one. Actually, let me swatch it for you because it's pretty it's pretty cool. I don't know if you can see. You can kind of see the ultraviolet. Yeah, you can see the sort of multi-chrome ultraviolet shift there, right? Yeah, see how it's green, pink. It's got a lot going on. It looks wild on my hand, but I'm not sure that the monitor is getting that. You know what I want to do with this? I hope I don't regret this because I really like my eye look, but I'm going to put a tiny bit like just on the brow bone and draw it down. And so I'm using an eyeshadow brush, a fluffy eyeshadow brush. It's the Refer 27. Oh yeah, I don't regret I don't regret it. I feel like it's like a spot highlight kind of is what I've done here. And this is kind of like, I feel like it wouldn't be working as well if I hadn't already highlighted my cheeks with something else. Because it's like it's blending in to the other highlight. Yeah, these Kaleidos highlighters are intense. They 1000% could market them as eyeshadows if they just like press them into smaller pans. And I feel like they actually work best this way. Like they work best when applied with a smaller, denser brush where you're really laying it on kind of thick like an eyeshadow and you're being really intentional about where you put it and where you want it to shine with that multicolored reflect. And I love when a highlight blends into an eye look, and I feel like these are particularly great for that because again, they don't look out of place on the eyes like in the least. I'm going back and adding more to my brow bone. I've been playing with these Kaleidos highlighters a little bit in Makeup Playtime, and I feel like I haven't quite figured out how to make it into something that really works with my personal style because I haven't been using powder highlight and I haven't been using colorful highlight recently. It's not like I dislike those things, it just hasn't been my vibe recently. But this, like putting it with a small brush on the eyes and on just on the cheekbones, I feel like this is making it into something that really fits with my makeup style and my personal style. Because I could see myself doing a look where I use like cream blush, like I usually am, you know, a cream blush and cream highlight on the cheek and everything's melting in. And then I come in at the last minute and just spot with this on like the brow bone and the cheekbones. I think you can probably tell how much I'm feeling myself because I like can't stop going like this. I thought this was gonna go south. I thought trying weird and interesting makeup was gonna be a recipe for a weird and interesting makeup look, but I'm actually so pleased, and I'm really hoping that the lip is going to, you know, tie the whole room together. So I removed the gloss. It's pretty tenacious. It didn't come off, it didn't wipe off to a super clean look or to a super clean lip right away. And it actually feels like it left sort of a moisturizing layer behind. And I'm gonna apply this ZC Dragon lipstick in the shade M13. Here's a close-up of the bullet in case you've never seen it. It's engraved with peacocks, this one, rather than dragons. It's like peacocks and flowers and clouds. I actually quite like this color. This is a very wearable, mid-toned, kind of like mauve-y shade for me. On a lot of people, it'll be much lighter than it is on me. Colors that, I bet it's like the lightest in the range. I bet compared to the other, I haven't looked, but I would guess that compared to the other colors in this lipstick range, this one looks like a very, very pale mauve-y nude. That color on me usually looks like the natural mid-tone. You know what I mean? In isolation, it's kind of a pale color. But that said, I thought that it was going to be darker on me than it is, and I'm pretty pleased with it. It smells like vanilla. I'm reminded once again that this formula has something in common to me with the Charlotte Tilbury Matte Revolution formula, but it's a little bit less matte and a little bit less silicone-y. I actually like this better. I don't like that Charlotte Tilbury formula. I find it to sort of sit on the lips instead of becoming one with them. I like this one better, but that's the thing that I've tried that is the best comparison, or like the closest comparison that I can make. And I think that they also smell kind of the same. That might also be why I'm thinking that. Wow, blotted, it becomes very wearable. I felt like it was taking away from the eye look a little bit, so I blotted it down, and I'm pretty pleased with that actually. I feel like it's all harmonizing together, and I feel like I would never guess that this is the result of a bunch of experimenting with a bunch of unexpected formulas and things that I've never tried before. I definitely feel confident to go on and film another video with this makeup on. I feel like it couldn't have come out better if I'd planned it. My little mole, because it's been highlighted, is, I don't know if it looks this way on camera, but in the mirror that's slightly to the right of me, it's shining like a sequin when I turn my head. Okay, we're done here. What a gas this was. This was so fun. And the only thing that I have left to say is that I feel like this is the kind of video that can sometimes cause people to immediately want to buy new stuff, you know, because it's like interesting stuff, weird stuff you might not have seen before. And it's like, I need that, I need that, I need that. And you know, if you have a budget for makeup or a budget for beautiful things and you've seen something that is the exact kind of thing that you like to buy and you're excited to spend some of your budget on it, then great. I'm not trying to poo-poo that, because I know that sometimes one of the things I do here is to make you aware of something that you are going to love and that is worth your money and that you're happy that you bought. So that could be happening to you. And if it's all above ground, then fantastic. But another thing that could be happening to you right now is you could be feeling that angst that comes from knowing that you've already spent your budget on makeup, you're trying not to buy more makeup right now, you're on a no buy, and you've seen something that really intrigues you and you feel like you want to buy it, but you also know that buying it isn't actually what you want to be doing right now on a more fundamental level. If that's happening to you, just a quick reminder here at the end of the video, the best medicine for that is to go and play with the makeup that you already own. And if you really like the look that I came up with, I bet that you can come up with something like it, some version of it, using the makeup you already own. And even if you don't have anything remotely like a multi-chrome highlighter, for example, and your look ends up being quite different from mine in one or two specific ways, it'll still be awesome and you'll still have had a really fun time playing with your makeup. It's almost impossible to do that, to like get into your makeup and have fun applying it with kind of a goal or an inspiration in mind. It's almost impossible to do that without reawakening the love for the things that you already own. That's always what happens to me, and I hope that that is what will happen to you if you proceed to do that now. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to take extra good care of yourself today so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.